I finished reading The Goblin Emperor about a week ago, and honestly, I have been sitting on reviewing it for about a week now. Mostly because I've been kind of torn between giving it 4 stars and 5 stars, so let's talk about it. I want to start by saying that I truly enjoyed this book. I very much liked it. I love Maya. The characters were great. I understood why many of the characters made the decisions they did and like all of that. The thing that I struggled with the most, and the reason that I ended up settling on giving it 4 stars and not 5 stars, is honestly because like this is a cozy book. Like, let's be real. The conflict, while it is life or death conflict, when things happen, they happen very quickly. There's not like a lot of buildup. It just is like, okay, something's happening and then it's over and it's solved very quickly. Multiple times throughout the book, whenever these types of things pop up, they happen very quickly with no warning, and then they are solved very, very quickly. And so it's not that, like, because of that, I would term this as more of like a cozy book. There's not a lot of time for you to be stressing about what's going to happen and whether people are going to be in danger for a long time and like things like that. So my beef with it, and it's a very small beef, is that for the fact that this is a cozy book, the world building is too intense for the level of read and the level of investment that we are being asked to give. At the beginning of the book, they've included extracts from a handbook for travelers in the Elflands that goes over things like pronunciation, the ways that people are named, titles of address, the emperors, like all of this stuff that is intense world building. And while I loved that, I did not think this was the book for that. The level of investment that I had to give at the beginning of this book in order to understand how people were named in this book and how those names reflected their different relationships with each other did not fit with the rest of the story, because it was such a like cozy feeling book, if that makes sense. The example I'm going to give for this is that the way that people are named in the book, their last names, if you're from the same family, you will all have the same prefix part of your name, but then the suffix part of it will change. And so having to be able to keep track of Tethamata, Tethamar, Tetha, all of these names that have Tetha at the beginning and all of these different endings are different people, but they're all related. And then having to try to keep track of like, okay, this is the dad and this is the daughter and this is the wife and this is the whatever. And then on top of that, instead of calling people Mrs., Mr., Lord, Lady, things like that we're already used to, they decided to change all of those titles as well to build them into the world, which again, I love that type of thing. And if this had been a trilogy or something like that, this big epic sweeping fantasy, I feel like the payoff for me having invested in that portion of the world building would have been a lot better. My second point that feeds into that is that at the beginning of the book, there is 12 pages of a listing of persons, places, things, and gods. So this world building was amazing. Don't get me wrong. It was wonderful. However, the fact that I had to keep going back to this 12 pages to keep everybody straight, and then also to keep like places straight, because it's not just like cities, it's also like the different buildings have different names and different parts of the buildings have different names, and then the gods have names and like things like that. It just got a little bit unwieldy, but like I said, overall I loved the story. I think if some of that world building had been scaled back a little bit, I absolutely would have given this 5 stars across the board and I wouldn't have had any issues with it. I think the level of world building did not match the story that was being told. With that said, this is another Bookopoly book down, and it's time to roll for a new Bookopoly book. Have you read The Goblin Emperor? What did you think of it? What did you rate it? What were your thoughts on the world building versus the story? Anyway, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it.